And so we are on the brink of a time, we have arrived, we are at the time where the human imagination now need meet no barriers to its intent. And so we are going to find out who we are. We are going to discover what it means to be human when there is no resistance to human will. Now, this is, I suppose, like a litmus test for paranoia. Is this going to be a nightmare of, 24-hour-a-day sadomasochistic pornography? Or is it going to be, will we literally build heaven on earth? Knowing what I know about the human animal, I suspect it'll be both and. Because we're not going to get everybody marching in the same direction on this, and one person's hell is another person's heaven. But the imagination, which to this point has been a human faculty and the consolation of artists, is about to turn into real estate. As real as any real estate there is. And in a way, I think the shamans who, for the past 50,000 years, have been essentially, they leapt over the material phase of imagination engineering and went to nanotechnology 25, 30,000 years ago. By nanotechnology, I mean reliance on machines to achieve your goals, machines that are under 1 nanometer in size, smaller than a billionth of an inch. We don't think of drug molecules as machines, but in fact they are machines, and they perform their work in the synapse like machines. So shamanism didn't use matter to build its realities. It was more sophisticated than that. It directly addressed the capacity of the human mind in the presence of unusual neurochemicals to produce unusual phenomena and unusual sensoria of experience. Now, what's happening is these two strains of development, let's call it the pharmacological, nanotechnological, low-tech, natural, shamanic path, and the high-tech, material manipulating, macro-physical technologies are encountering each other and meeting in the domain of the modern computer. And this is fascinating. The world is becoming more and more defined by the imagination. And those of us who are involved in creating this, I think, have the feeling that it has in it a kind of built-in dynamic toward finality. In other words, this is not a process that can go on for hundreds of thousands or even hundreds of years, because the human imagination is so endlessly self-transcending. Whatever its most advanced creation of the moment is, it's in the process of obviating and denying it and seeking to go beyond it. And, I think it was Plato, I'm not sure he said it first, but said, if God does not exist, human beings will create God. Well, I think the truth is they're not even going to wait to find out. It's easier to cut to the technical solution and sort the whole thing out later. And if the God we make and the God we find are in conflict with each other, they'll just have to duke it out. Well, maybe they'll Marduk it out, I'm not sure. Because, there's a wonderful phrase in Myths, Dreams, and Mysteries, a book by Merciliade, where he's talking about powered flight, of all things. the Wright brothers. And he says, whatever we make of this as an engineering feat, it speaks volumes about the human psyche's desire to transcend itself infinitely. And so, in a sense, the powered flight is a psychological breakthrough because man flies. Well, then, spacecraft, we break beyond the embrace of gravity. And these technological breakthroughs are always presented in terms of overcoming some set of boundary constraints imposed by nature. And in virtual reality, all boundary constraints are overcome by nature, just as in the imagination. But the imagination metabolically sustained, in other words, you eat well, then you smoke a lot of hash, then you enter into an imaginative reality. But as metabolism ebbs and flows, as your food digests, as the drugs leave your system, this reality, whatever it is, falls to pieces and is washed away. But the reality, the virtual realities created in code are more enduring. They are, in fact, as enduring as the code maker. And so we're beginning to talk in terms of dreams which don't go away, worlds of the imagination which one can work on for months, and then lead one's critics through and collect their critiques and make the corrections and dot the I's and cross the T's according to the way one's critics and friends think it should be done. And so what this means is somehow the imagination, always among the most private of domains, is like everything else under the impact of the new technologies, being redefined so that there is no private and public distinction anymore. So we are on the brink of losing, in a sense, a part of our individuality. We are going to be able to build hallucinations and then walk through them and discuss them and edit them and re-edit them. And to this point, we've been doing psychology sort of like a blind man polishing a Cadillac in total darkness. If you keep excellent notes and don't lose your place, you form a kind of a notion of what a Cadillac must be. But what we're about to do is just turn on the fluorescent lighting and look at the thing. And I don't know what this will bring. I think it will redefine us. We are a great mystery to ourselves and to each other, but not in principle, only through limitations imposed by the physical body and limitations of technology. And so I think, what our yearning for community, for collectivity, for telepathy, for universal human understanding is, in a sense, going to be self-fulfilled by simply opening up the imagination, not as a private dimension, but as a public and shared dimension. And this will be, I think, incredibly enriching and surprising. We are going to find out what the human critter really is and what we are really capable of. And I'm not afraid of this at all, because I think, basically I'm a Platonist. And Plato identified the good and the true and the beautiful as the same thing.